I am Anne Kiguta. No doubt you will remember with me two infamous Armenians, Artur Margaryan and Artur Sagarsian, and how they entered and left the country without a trace, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. Well, tonight, KTN can exclusively reveal to you the mission of those two infamous brothers in the country, one that links them to rampant drug trafficking. The trail leads all the way to near State House. Some shocking revelations are lined up for you tonight with KTN's Dennis Onsariago. But first, let's take a look at our top stories. Joining us now is KTN's James Karani.
Well, indeed, thank you very much, Anne Kiguta. It is a big story. Most people are already responding across the country and indeed over the world following the 7 o'clock story, Jicho Pevu. But first, let's take a look at some of the top stories on KTN Prime this evening. Al-Shabaab suffer heavy losses as AMISOM takes war to terror group. Lifeline for Tobiko as High Court throws out petition against him. And HIF not out of the woods yet as doctors demand the disbandment of interim board. And the inside story is back. We'll tell you how drug traffickers thrive in Kenya. So the top stories, first of all, before we get to the story that I believe many of you are waiting to watch, it's the inside story. Untouchables is back. But first, Al-Shabaab have suffered heavy losses as AMISOM takes war to terror group. The Lifeline, Islamist militant group Al-Shabaab today suffered heavy losses after the African Union troops engaged them in a fierce gun battle that ended with deaths of 8 top Al-Shabaab fighters. 60 militants were injured and captured during the combat that lasted for over more than 10 hours. The African Union troops also captured Afgoye Bridge on River Shabelle. We bring you exclusive footage of that particular battle.
The combined team of Ugandan forces and troops from the Transitional Federal Government of Somalia began their mission to flush out Al-Shabaab militia from their stronghold in Afgoye on Tuesday night. They engaged the militia in a fierce gun battle using armored tanks and mortars. By Wednesday morning, Afgoye town had come under the control of AMISOM and TFG troops. Afgoye town gave Al-Shabaab fighters easy access to the capital Mogadishu. The town is 30 kilometers northwest of Mogadishu and lies on a strategic crossroads for routes to the north, west and south of Somalia. Afgoye was Al-Shabaab's second most important stronghold after Kismayu in the south. The town has allowed the militants opportunity to mount frequent attacks in the capital Mogadishu, despite having been flushed out of its bases there by AMISOM troops last August. The amount of firepower used was awesome, and nothing was left to chance as the soldiers combed the bushes for any Al-Shabaab militant that could be hiding. 8 militants were killed and 60 others injured in the battle. The soldiers also captured Afgoye Bridge on River Shabelle from the Al-Shabaab. The African Union forces avoided using the main road linking Mogadishu to Afgoye. That stretch of land, known as the Afgoye Corridor, is home to up to 400,000 people who have fled years of fighting and are now living in makeshift camps. Today, AMISOM spokesman Lieutenant Colonel Padi Ankunda sent a message saying Al-Shabaab fighters were fleeing toward Kismayu in the south, where they expect to be under fire from Kenyan soldiers who are in charge of that territory. Patrick Amimo, KTN Prime.
Well, and we have to acknowledge that footage came from the United Nations Information Support Team. But moving on, Kenyan doctors are tonight demanding the removal of the interim board appointed by the government following the NHIF scandal involving public funds allocated to non-existent hospitals. Joy Dorimbira has that particular report.
The appointment of a caretaker board for NHIF by the government 3 weeks ago following the sacking of the old management for misappropriation of funds has not gone well with the Kenya Medical Association.
The Act provides for the NHIF Board of Management consisting of various individuals including the chairman of the Kenya Medical Association.
Kenya Medical Association argues that government may have acted urgently in order to prevent loss of contributors' funds and that may have in the process overlooked the statutory provisions provided for in the Act.
Senior managers implicated in the scam remain in office as we speak.
The National Hospital Insurance Fund is accused of misappropriating medical scheme funds for teachers and civil servants by allocating it to non-existent hospitals. Joy Doreen Bira, KTN, Nairobi.
Director of Public Prosecutions Keriako Tobiko will remain in office following a ruling by the High Court. The court dismissed a petition challenging his appointment on the grounds that the issues were raised and addressed by his vetting panel. KTN's Wilkiste Nyabwe has the report.
Last year, the Kenya Youth Parliament, the Kenya Youth League and an individual, Patrick Njuguna, went to the High Court seeking to stop the president from appointing Tobiko as the Director of Public Prosecution. They argued that Tobiko should not be appointed because questions had been raised before the Constitutional Oversight Implementation Committee about his suitability for the office. But today, a three-judge bench made up of John Mwera, Philomena Mwilu and Mohamed Warsame dismissed the case, saying they could not determine the issue since the same matter had been raised and thrashed out by the panel that interviewed Tobiko for the job. Further, they say that there was no evidence to show that the nomination process was flawed or that the Constitution had been violated. In conclusion, the judges ruled that the issues raised had been concluded and as such they could not reopen the files, paving the way for Tobiko to continue as DPP. Wilkiste Nyabwe, KTN Prime.
PNU and ODM today submitted names of nominees to the East African Legislative Assembly, EALA, to the Clerk of the National Assembly. PNU submitted names of the 12 candidates, 3 from each of its affiliates. However, 2 were disqualified after they failed to produce some of the required documents. ODM, on the other hand, submitted 9 names. Members of the public have been invited to inspect the papers submitted by the nominees at County Hall on the 28th and the 29th of this month. The nominees will appear before the Parliamentary Departmental Committee on Defence and Foreign Affairs for vetting on Wednesday. The names will then be tabled in Parliament for approval. Kenya is expected to present 9 members to the Regional Parliament for swearing in on the 5th of June. Meanwhile, ODM Chief Whip Jacoya Midiwa trashed claims that the process might be derailed by URP, which had threatened to oppose the nominees if not consulted.
We have spoken to everybody, and in fact, the URP and UDF are not parliamentary parties. The last time I checked, I have not heard of a UDF in Parliament, of a UD or a URP, but we have formed clusters in Parliament because this is a game of high stakes, and I think many of the complainants are happy.
A short break now, but you're back with the business news. Then, just a little bit later, of course, we'll be bringing to you Inside Story.
KTN Business Today in association with Visa.
When you pay with your Visa card, you stand a chance to win a return trip for 2 to the London 2012 Olympic Games.
Keroche Breweries has opened our spirit glass bottling plant to boost its capacity in the lucrative alcoholic beverages market. The plant will give its capacity to produce 100,000 bottles of spirits per hour as it takes the fight to the big boys in the market.
The Naivasha-based brewer strategy to focus on the low end of the spirit market is bound to be enhanced with the commissioning of the new spirit plant. Keroche intends to boost its capacity in the spirit market, which is fast becoming a cash cow for distillers and brewers alike, to 40% in the next 3 years. The plant comes after the introduction of the Alcoholic Drinks Control Act, which phased out the bottling of alcoholic drinks in plastic bottles. The plant is said to have cost the company $500 million to set up.
We want to capture 30% of the spirit market share as we position ourselves as the beer, spirit, wine manufacturers of choice of the 21st century.
The alcoholic market in Kenya has undergone rapid transformation with the entry of SAB Miller and Dutch beer maker Heineken, which has seen players develop niche marketing strategies to capture the segmented market. At the same time, the Ministry of Trade has admitted there is need to review the popular to the law, which it says negatively affected players in the sector. Michael Karanja, KTN Business Today.
Sports up next.
KTN Business Today in association with Visa.
Visa, supporting athletes and the Olympic Games for 25 years.
After 12 matches, the final 4 teams will try to book a slot in the finals this year. The semi-finals adopt a slightly different structure. Contrary to previous years, where both semi-final matches were played at Nairobi's RFUEA grounds, this year's edition sees the semi-final fixtures evenly spread out between Nairobi and Kampala. The 4 teams in action this weekend are the Lions, UAP Rhinos, Dimension Data, Renzori and the STV Transami Cheetahs.
Lions will be up against defending champions UAP Rhinos at the RFA grounds. The last time these two sides met was in a Pool B match